Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. A former NASA pilot named Cooper flies through the skies when suddenly his spacecraft runs out of fuel. Cooper was just dreaming, and upon waking up, his daughter Murph talks to him about ghosts. Murph asks if her father dreamt about the spaceship crash again, but Cooper refuses to talk about it. Donald, Cooper's father-in-law, calls the children for breakfast. Cooper's son, Tom, teases his sister by saying that a ghost broke his father's miniature spaceship, but Cooper reminds Murph that ghosts don't exist, challenging her to show evidence since the girl insists they do. After breakfast, Cooper and his father-in-law talk about a spreading disease called the plague, affecting the farms. Cooper takes the children to school, and on the way, a tire blows out. Cooper then tells Tom to fix the tire while he talks to Murph. At that moment, a military drone flies overhead, and Cooper hurries the kids back into the car. They follow the drone passing through the cornfields of the farm, despite the flat tire. Tom takes control of the vehicle while his father struggles to catch the drone. Cooper tries to capture the drone and fails to notice they are on the edge of a cliff. Finally, Cooper manages to take control of the drone and lands it with Murph's help. The drone has no military utility, and Cooper intends to use it in a better way. They then arrive at the school, and Tom goes to class while Murph stays in the car. Cooper attends a parent-teacher meeting, and the principal says Tom has great potential to become a farmer in the future. However, Cooper wants Tom to go to college and argues that tax money should fund his son's studies since the army no longer exists and is not an option for his son's work. The principal disagrees, saying the country doesn't need more people with university education but farmers to help combat world hunger. Next, Murph's teacher expresses concern about the girl's interest in visiting the moon, as the moon landing is now considered a hoax, and Murph shouldn't waste time on that subject. When the teacher says humanity's advancements were useless, Cooper gets angry, saying if those useless advancements like magnetic resonance were still happening, his wife would be alive. The teacher apologizes and asks for Cooper's help in dealing with Murph's behavior, but Cooper says he will deal with it himself by taking his daughter to a baseball game. Father and daughter go home and discover that the farm's automated tractors are malfunctioning. Entering Murph's room, Cooper finds books scattered all over the floor. The girl says it's the ghost communicating through Morse code, but Cooper disagrees. Later that day, Cooper fixes the tractors but still doesn't understand why they malfunctioned. He and Donald reminisce about the old times when there was innovation every day. Donald likes the current peaceful state of the world and worries about Cooper's dream of one day traveling to space. The day of the baseball game arrives, and Cooper and Tom talk. The young man then agrees with his father to take care of the farm in the future. Suddenly, the sirens start blaring, and a sandstorm occurs, but people don't seem very scared and leave the stadium in an organized way. The family returns home, and Murph realizes she left the window in her room open. She and Cooper rush to close it, and as the dust settles, Cooper observes the strange pattern formed on the ground. The next day, Murph finds her father in her room. Cooper flips a coin that quickly falls to the ground. He smiles, saying the ghost in Murph's room was just gravity. Realizing that the sand was communicating through binaries, the father-daughter duo grabs a map to mark the coordinates given by the sand. Cooper then prepares to go to the location and refuses to let Murph go with him, but the girl hides under the blankets inside the car, forcing Cooper to let her come along. Night falls, and Cooper drives carefully through the unknown area. He gets out of the vehicle to open a gate. A flashlight turns on, and a voice threatens Cooper and then makes Murph scream in fear. Inside the protected area, Cooper wakes up and is interrogated by TARS, a tactical robot. Dr. Amelia Brand arrives at the location and introduces herself to Cooper, who says he knows her father, Professor Brand. Amelia then takes Cooper to a conference room where Murph waits for him. There he talks to Professor Brand, and Cooper vaguely explains how they found the hidden base until Murph accidentally blurts out that gravity led them there. Cooper refuses to speak further unless his safety is guaranteed. They laugh at him and reveal they are from NASA. Behind the walls is a group of engineers working on a rocket. Professor Brand explains how society does not support funding for space exploration because of the world's hunger crisis. However, they have pooled their efforts to find a solution to the food shortage. Different cultures are affected by the plague each year. Wheat and potatoes are no longer grown, and they believe corn will be the next to disappear from the fields. The plague consumes Earth's oxygen, so Professor Brand predicts that Murph's generation will be the last to survive. NASA has no plans to save the world but plans to leave it. Professor Brand introduces Cooper to Project Endurance, the final addition to the Lazarus missions. The Lazarus missions are Earth's last expedition in the hope of finding another habitable planet. After some time conversing, Cooper agrees to be the pilot of Project Endurance to try to save humanity and especially his children. In the conference room, Cooper is briefed on the mission. NASA has discovered a wormhole near Saturn that leads to another galaxy. They also believe that benevolent beings placed the wormhole as a means to help humans. It is said to lead directly to around 12 habitable planets. 10 years ago, NASA sent 12 astronauts to the 12 planets. As a result, it was discovered that only 3 of these planets would be suitable for life. The Lazarus mission has a Plan A and a Plan B. Plan A is to use the entire facility, the one they are in, as a spaceship that will harness gravitational forces to propel itself and the surviving humans into space. However, the process exists only in theory, as Professor Brand has not yet developed it in practice. Plan B, on the other hand, will send thousands of fertilized eggs to start a colony on the new planet. With a determined look, Professor Brand assures Cooper that Plan A will be operational when he returns from the mission. These words touch Cooper's soul, and from that moment, he puts all his faith in the professor. At home, Cooper tries to talk to Murph, but the girl is very sad about her father's departure. Donald talks to Cooper about his dream of a space trip finally becoming a reality. Cooper says the mission is humanity's last hope. It's time for them to leave the planet that is slowly killing them. Morning comes, and Cooper consoles Murph. He tells his daughter that he is doing it for her and for Tom. Murph tries to change her father's mind, saying that the message the ghost left had the word stay, but Cooper doesn't listen and hugs her tightly as if it were their last embrace. He gives her a watch, saying that time and space is slower than on Earth and that they may be the same age when he returns. Murph angrily throws the gift away. Cooper says goodbye and assures her that he will return. Cooper then hugs his son, passing the tractor and all the responsibilities of the farm to him. In the car, he looks under the blanket to make sure Murph is not there. Cooper starts driving and pulling away on the road, and Murph runs to follow him, but it's already too late. As the countdown begins, tears stream down Cooper's face, as if the count were for the end of his life. The rocket is launched, and Cooper's crew, along with TARS, leaves planet Earth. In space, Amelia and Cooper chat playfully. They are on the Endurance space station, and Doyle prepares to lock the hatch, successfully docking the spacecraft. The crew enters the station and activates the controls in case, another tactical robot. The engines are fired up, and the space station begins to rotate. Suddenly, Romilly, another crew member, starts feeling unwell, and Amelia goes to get medicine for him. Professor Brand appears on the screen and wishes them good luck on their 2-year journey to Saturn. Endurance starts spinning toward the dark and deep space. At the window, Cooper watches Earth now kilometers away. Meanwhile, Romilly enters his cabin, preparing to enter deep sleep. Amelia and Cooper talk about the 3 astronauts who led the mission in the past, Dr. Mann, Dr. Miller, and Dr. Edmonds. Amelia praises Dr. Mann, stating that he inspired everyone to follow him on the dangerous expedition. She then goes to her cabin, and Cooper takes the opportunity to talk to TARS in private. He asks the robot if Amelia is in a relationship with Dr. Edmonds, and the robot avoids the question, saying it is programmed not to disclose confidential information. Cooper sits in front of the video recorder, saying goodbye to his children before falling into a deep sleep. Back on Earth, Professor Brand visits Cooper's family. He gives them Cooper's video message, but Murph is not interested in watching her father's video. Years pass, and near the outskirts of Saturn, a faint glow is seen. Cooper is awake, watching his family's video messages. He sits next to Romilly, who seems paranoid about the crew's situation. Cooper comforts him and lends him his headphones. Doyle and Cooper review the images collected by probes that pass through the wormhole. On the radio, Amelia informs the crew that they will reach the wormhole in a few hours. The ship barely keeps up with the insane speed as the crew travels through the wormhole. Amelia then sees a distortion in space, seemingly like an outstretched arm. Thinking they are the benevolent beings, she reaches out. All goes silent, the ship stabilizes, and they float gently once more. The crew then gathers and decides which planet to travel to. Dr. Edmonds lost contact with the crew, and they believe the planet he visited is uninhabitable, leaving them with 2 options, one of which is to travel to the planet near Gargantua, a black hole where 1 hour equals 7 years on Earth. Doyle and Cooper then talk, and Doyle wants to proceed with Plan B and leave everyone on Earth to die. Cooper proposes a compromise where the ship will travel to the opposite side of Gargantua so that their time is not affected when they land. The crew agrees to the plan. After some preparations, Case accompanies the crew on the expedition to the planet while Romilly stays behind. They experience strong turbulence as they approach the planet's surface. The crew prepares for landing, and a vast ocean meets them as they descend through the clouds. Cooper skillfully pilots the craft, stopping precisely before hitting the waters. Time passes, and Doyle and Amelia venture into the shallow seas. Case finds debris from Dr. Miller's ship beacon, and they try to find the rest of the wreckage, walking toward the mountains ahead. Inside the ship, Cooper realizes that the mountains are actually massive waves. The waves recede from them, but another wave follows them from behind. Despite the enormous wall of water, Amelia continues her search for information from Dr. Miller. She falls while trying to retrieve wreckage from his ship. The robot Case transforms into a wheel and rushes toward Amelia to save her. The robot takes her back to the ship, and Cooper closes the hatch. Doyle is about to enter the ship, but the waves end up sweeping him away. The wave breaches the ship, flooding its interior. The crew is tossed around as they struggle against the wave. They survive the rough sea, but the ship is damaged. Cooper is angry with Amelia for not returning to the ship when he told her to. They have been on the planet for almost an hour and not only lost Doyle but also lost decades of time. Amelia believes that Dr. Miller landed on the planet hours ago due to the time difference, so the wreckage was still intact. Hopelessness grows as Cooper realizes that his daughter is now an adult. The waves don't give them time to recover, and another wave is about to crash into them again. They desperately try to restart the engine and finally succeed, flying safely. Back on the ship, they reunite with Romilly, much older now. The crew has been on Miller's planet for over 23 years, and they are incredulous about it. Romilly reports that he learned all he could about black holes but could not send his research to Earth. Meanwhile, Cooper goes through over 23 years of video messages, watching his children's lives pass before his eyes. He cries as he discovers that his shy boy has now become a husband, a father, and a father who has lost a child, all in just a few videos. Donald has died, and Murph has distanced herself from the family. In one video, Tom says goodbye and accepts that Cooper will not come back. The screen goes black, and Murph appears, starting her message by cursing her father. She says it's her birthday, and she's the same age as Cooper was when he left, while Cooper cries with deep sadness and longing. She finishes her message, asking her father to come back. On Earth, Murph wipes away her tears and sees Professor Brand in a wheelchair near the door. Brand is surprised to see her sending her first message to her father. They go to the office to work together on the still unresolved theory. Murph stares at the board and realizes they were looking at the equation the wrong way. Professor Brand knows this, but Murph doesn't understand why he doesn't make the necessary change to the equation. Back on Endurance, the crew assesses their options of visiting either Dr. Mann's planet or Dr. Edmund's, who stopped transmitting some time ago. Amelia believes that visiting Edmund would be the best option, as that planet is farther from the black hole, but Cooper argues that Dr. Mann continues to have contact with them, making it the safer option. Before starting a vote, Cooper informs Romilly of Amelia's preference for Edmund's planet since she and the Doctor are in a relationship. Amelia does not deny it and even argues that their love is reason enough for the crew to choose Edmund, but the crew is not moved by Amelia's emotional speech and devises a plan to reach Dr. Mann's planet. Back on Earth, Tom has fulfilled his destiny of being a farmer. He burns the crops to prevent the plague from spreading and receives a visit from his sister. Tom is married to Louis, and their second son, Coop, has respiratory problems due to the dust storms and the deterioration of the planet's conditions. Meanwhile, on Endurance, Amelia is angry with Cooper. She says that if Dr. Mann's planet is not suitable, they will have to return or continue with Plan B on Edmund's planet, sacrificing the lives of billions on Earth. Back on Earth, Murph rushes to the hospital to visit Professor Brand. When he is near death, Murph assures him that she will finish what he started. With his last words, Brand confesses to Murph that Project Endurance should never have happened and that Plan A and the theory were a lie. Brand dies, leaving Murph completely shocked. Murph broadcasts the news through a video message to the crew and accuses Amelia of knowing all of her father's lies. The spacecraft on the horizon prepares to enter Dr. Mann's planet. The crew arrives at the snowy mountains, where they see a base. They enter a rundown room and find Dr. Mann in deep sleep. Upon waking up, Mann immediately cries upon seeing another human in front of him. Mann shares his discovery about the planet. They are currently on a peak where there is no breathable air. However, the planet has a lower surface where there is a chance of survival. He thinks that alien life forms already inhabit the planet but have not yet been seen. Tars asks Amelia to see the video message, and Murph's voice fills the entire room as she reveals the truth. Murph cries, thinking that Cooper left her and her brother alone to die. Cooper is surprised by the sudden revelation, and Amelia swears that she did not know what Murph was talking about. Mann then interjects, saying that Professor Brand solved the equation before the astronauts even left on their journey, but simply proving the theory was not enough. They needed information about what is inside the black hole to put the theory into practice, but unfortunately the laws of nature did not allow that. Dr. Mann justifies the professor's actions, saying that sacrificing the lives of billions on Earth is necessary to save the human race. Cooper refuses to believe it and wishes to return home. Back on Earth, Murph informs her colleague Getty about the professor's lies. Getty says that humanity deserves to know what their fate will be, but Murph refuses to disclose that information. She has not given up on Plana yet, as a gut feeling tells her there is a chance. Murph then remembers the ghost in her room and plans to return to her old house and finally decipher its messages. Murph then visits her old room while Getty checks on the worsening condition of Tom's family. Getty scolds Tom for not leaving that house, and he punches Getty. Murph taunts her brother, asking if he will wait for his other son to die before moving. Tom gets angry and tells them to leave. Along the way, Murph heads to the cornfields. She grabs a fuel tank, pours it over the crops, igniting everything. The fire puts Tom on alert, and he leaves the house to deal with the disaster. Murph and Getty seize this opportunity to rescue Tom's family, and Murph returns to her old room. On the alien planet, Cooper prepares for his departure to Earth. Romilly suggests throwing Tars into the black hole so that he can collect information about what is inside. Tars is a robot but shows his humanity by accepting the challenge. Dr. Mann prepares to build the laboratory and living quarters that are being sent from the Endurance ship. Cooper accompanies Mann to explore potential areas to house the habitats. On their journey, Mann talks to Cooper about how human survival instincts allow them to strive beyond their capabilities and how, as a father, this instinct strengthens because of their children. Their conversation gets weirder by the second, and they find themselves at the edge, staring into an abyss. Suddenly, Mann removes Cooper's transmission device and pushes him. Mann tries to kick Cooper's hands, who drags him along. Mann says he can't let Cooper leave with the ship and confesses that he falsified the information sent and that the planet is not habitable. He chose to save his life, putting the mission at risk. The two fight, and when Cooper is about to win, Mann headbutts Cooper's helmet, exposing him to toxic air and leaving him suffocating. He looks at Cooper, trying to feel sorry for him. Cooper crawls to the transmission device and screams for Amelia, who joins Case and flies towards Cooper. They arrive just in time, and Amelia rushes to save him. They board the ship, and Cooper reveals Mann's lies. Meanwhile, Romilly begins to modify Tars. When he analyzes the data from Dr. Mann's tactical robot, he feels that something is wrong. He hears Amelia calling on the radio, but suddenly an explosion occurs. In the distance is Dr. Mann, surprised by what happened. He turns on his communication device and hears that Cooper survived. Cooper and Amelia watch the damage, and Tars emerges from the flames. The robot boards the ship and delivers the news of Romilly's death. Simultaneously, Dr. Mann boards the ship, planning to abandon the crew. Cooper communicates with him, but he doesn't respond. Case informs the crew that the automatic docking procedure aboard the spacecraft is disabled. It will take a miracle for Dr. Mann to board the Endurance. Mann approaches the space station and plans to dock the ship manually. The ship hovers dangerously around the airlock, and Mann cannot align it perfectly. Despite the blaring alarms, he still plans to open the airlock. Cooper and the crew approach the Endurance, and he desperately asks Mann not to open the airlock, as it will cause the chamber to explode. Amelia's voice begins to be transmitted on the ship, warning him again. Mann justifies his actions, saying that he is doing it for humanity. He opens the airlock, and the airlock explodes. The crew sees the explosion in the distance, and the debris approaches them. Cooper takes control of the spacecraft. He plans to pursue the Endurance and dock at extreme speeds. Case says it's not possible, but he insists it's necessary. They are under the docking area, and the Endurance approaches the planet's stratosphere. Tars opens the airlock, and they manage to align perfectly. The ship begins to spin with Endurance. They experience intense G-force, causing Amelia to faint. Cooper holds the controls firmly, and TARS successfully locks the ship. They stop the rotation, pushing Endurance out of the stratosphere. The station stabilizes, and they celebrate. However, their celebration is interrupted when Case says they are heading towards Gargantua. Inside the ship, the crew travels through the damaged corridors. In the generator room, Amelia says there is power, and the system is stable, but Cooper announces that some parts of the ship are destroyed. They cannot return to Earth, but they can reach Edmund's planet. Cooper plans to use Gargantua as a giant slingshot to propel them towards Edmund. They then prepare, using all the components of the Endurance, but to do so, they need to get rid of all the extra weight, including the robot TARS. Amelia doesn't like the idea, but TARS says his only goal is to save humanity. Now Endurance is in orbit around Gargantua. They reach maximum speed and begin their exit. One by one, all engines are activated. TARS separates from the crew and bids farewell. Amelia then panics upon hearing Case starting to eject Cooper's section. There are not enough resources for both, and Cooper decides to sacrifice himself for the mission. He approaches the center of the black hole, and Amelia cries upon hearing Cooper's final words. Darkness envelopes Cooper's ship, and he calls for TARS. Flashes of light begin to appear, and the turbulence increases. The light hits the ship like raindrops, and the exterior of the ship begins to catch fire. Cooper screams and loses consciousness. He is awakened by the computer telling him to eject. Cooper flies into the darkness, trembling with cold and fear. He lands in what seems to be an endless room and grabs one of the walls. Cooper then realizes that the wall is made of books. He tries to look to the other side and sees a room. He bangs on the shelves, and a young Murph sees the fallen books on the floor along with the miniature ship. Cooper calls out to young Murph, but she doesn't hear. He then realizes that each wall represents a different event in Murph's past. He sees his younger self planning to leave. He curses at himself and screams for him to stay. Cooper realizes he can communicate through Morse code and begins pushing the books, trying to spell out the word stay. Meanwhile, present-day Murph starts removing the books from the shelf. She becomes emotional upon seeing the message she wrote in a notebook when she was still a child and realizes that the ghost was actually her father. TARS survives and calls out for Cooper. He says they are in a dimension created by the benevolent beings where time is a physical plane. Cooper realizes that since gravity can travel through time, he can send a message to Murph. Present-day Murph realizes the same thing and hopes her father will communicate with her. Cooper asks TARS for the coordinates of NASA in binary. He sends it to his past self in the form of sand. Cooper laughs, realizing that the benevolent beings chose Murph to save humanity. He travels through the corridors, following his love for his daughter. Cooper believes he can use the watch to inform Murph about the quantum data she can use to make Plan A work. Murph picks up the watch and sees the second hand ticking in Morse code. She runs and hugs Tom, saying her father has returned to save them. In Brand's office, she figures out how to execute Plan A. Murph feels very happy and in her excitement ends up kissing Getty. TARS informs Cooper that his plan worked and the benevolent beings begin to close the dimension they are in. Cooper reveals that the benevolent beings are actually humans who lived long after them and evolved into something beyond their imagination. Cooper is engulfed by the bright light and sees Amelia reaching out to him. Her arm was the distortion she saw earlier. Cooper wakes up in a hospital room. He looks out the window and sees a distorted world, and the doctor informs him that they are on the Cooper station, near Saturn. He is glad that the station was named after him and the nurse smiles. Murph chose the name of the station and she will visit Cooper soon. Cooper walks through the station and witnesses how far humans have come. He sees his old house, which serves as a kind of museum honoring his life. He sees TARS and later that day, he fixes him. Cooper enters a room to meet his descendants and reunites with elderly Murph. She is very happy to see her father has returned and asks him to find Amelia. Amelia has just landed on Edmund's planet due to the time relativity, probably thinking she is humanity's last hope, unaware that humanity sent Cooper to find her.